But we have another scenario, and that is, could the gentleman on the sidewalk use force against the owner of the dog? And the answer is, well, yeah, of course, there's a legal argument to be made. Why? Because the owner of the dog is in control of the dog. And so, to the extent that the dog is attacking the man on the sidewalk, the owner of the dog is using that dog as a weapon, just as if the owner of the dog was using a club or a knife or a gun. And as we've just seen, it's a weapon readily capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. So the owner of the dog is attacking the man on the sidewalk with deadly force. Now, assuming the other elements of self-defense are met, of course, the element of proportionality would hold that if you're being attacked with deadly force, you can use deadly force in self-defense. And if we presume that if the owner of the dog, the holder of the leash, if he were neutralized, would the dog's attack stop? And if you believe that's a reasonable presumption, then the use of deadly force against the owner of the dog would be reasonable under the 5 elements of self-defense, a reasonable act of self-defense that would fall within the justification of self-defense. What happens then? I mean, these dynamics, the law of self-defense itself is not super complicated, 5 elements, but the real world is super complicated. Say you shoot the owner and you neutralize him. Does the dog stop the attack? Did that work? I mean, maybe. We don't know. Might the dog get even angrier? Would the dog know that you shot the owner? I mean, would a dog recognize such a thing? It's not like you're, being closing proximity and raining blows upon the owner, which a dog would recognize. But a gun, I don't know. I don't claim any particular expertise in that. But would you have a legal argument, a legal justification to make against the charge of having shot the dog owner? Yeah, he was using his dog as a weapon to inflict a deadly force attack upon me. That would be the argument. And there you'd be arguing the legal defense, not of necessity, but of self-defense. Innocence, imminence, proportionality, avoidance, and reasonableness. You were the innocent victim of an imminent, unlawful, deadly force attack if you're in a duty to retreat state, that you didn't have a safe opportunity to retreat, and your observations, your decisions, your actions were both subjectively believed to be necessary, and a hypothetical, reasonable, and prudent person in your position would have shared that subjective belief that it was reasonable to use force. That would be your legal defense. If you only use force against the dog, then it's this doctrine of necessity, doctrine of lesser evils, doctrine of lesser harms, or doctrine of choice of evils, the balancing test. By the way, if you kill the dog, what's the owner likely to do? Probably not be very happy about that, right? So I would expect that if you do kill the dog, use deadly force on the dog, your next fight's with the owner.